everyone, and welcome to my channel, Grief, Life After Loss. My name is Lindsay, and today I'm going to continue the conversation on secondary losses. It's been something that the minute I think about or talk about something as it relates to the secondary losses, it just continues just unfolding and getting bigger, and it leads to me researching even more, just because this is something that when my mother passed away initially 9 years ago, I wasn't necessarily aware that was possible to experience, right? Because when we think of loss, we think of the immediate loss, which is the physical death of the person, without actually acknowledging that the physical death is usually the start. It's usually the start of our grief, of our loss, of our experience, right? After the death of the person, there are so many other different losses that we don't necessarily pay attention to, or at least are conscious about, and therefore we tend to project the overwhelming sense of emotions and anything that can come up to the immediate loss, without again actually acknowledging that, you know, there's so much more to it. So today I wanted to focus on the loss of identity, because this is something that I have struggled with. In fact, I still continue to struggle with, because the whole perception of who we are, what makes us us, I feel like is so above the surface at times. When we are born, it's almost like the minute we come out, we are told who we are. And we are told so many times that we tend to believe that whatever other people's perception are of us actually is accurate and goes in line with who we actually are inside. I think that death oftentimes forces you to have to reflect and see that perhaps who you thought you were doesn't necessarily coincide with who you actually were. So I did do some research, but I decided, you know what, like this is something that I truly feel that I have some experience with. So now why not share my own knowledge and my own experience of identity, and how we lose and tend to lose our sense of identity when someone we love passes away, right? We've been bringing up the sense of secondary losses and how that can actually impact our grief experience, right? When we look at the physical death, we obviously feel that immediate loss. After we actually experience the immediate loss comes the other losses. Who and how we identify ourselves can relate to so many different things. And sometimes we allow the busyness and the noise outside of us define who we actually think we are, as I mentioned. So this can go in line with who we are professionally, who we are academically, who we are spiritually, who we are religiously, who we are according to all the assigned roles, such as, are you a mother? Are you a father? Are you a cousin? Are you an aunt? Are you a caregiver? Are you a sister? Are you a brother? Are you whatever assigned roles you have, right? Because usually when certain experiences happen, then that leads you to have yet another role. So sometimes we become so enmeshed with those roles that we feel like this is who I am. So I know that typically happens with parents, where they tend to forget who they were before the children came along. So they heavily identify with, I'm a mom and then I'm a person, and that's totally fine again, but it's always good to have a healthy balance. These are all roles that make us up of who we are, but it doesn't define our entire existence, if that makes sense, right? So you are so many other things than just that one assigned role. I hope I'm being clear. When you actually take away all the busyness, all the roles that we've been assigned, or that we ourselves have assigned to ourselves, we are left asking the question, who am I? Who am I outside of work? Who am I outside of school? Who am I outside of the gym? Who am I outside of being a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, and everything else that society told us that we are? Who am I? And the perfect example that I can think of is 2020. Now, I know 2020 has been an interesting year, to say the very least. I will call it interesting because as much as it's had a lot of downfalls, negatives, and things that have really impacted and affected our lives, I think that on the flip side, it has also brought out a part of us that I don't think we would have perhaps known about had we not been forced to stop, right? Because a lot of times when we get into the habit of routine, when we get into a schedule, we tend to go, go, go without really taking a break or a step back and actually saying, okay, what am I doing with my life right now? Because again, we think that these routines, these schedules make us up. I am all of this, but without all of this, who are you truly? With the COVID-19 pandemic, we have experienced the loss of jobs, some of us, the loss of financial security, the loss of security, being able to go to school normally, perhaps for many kids, the loss of relationships, the actual physical losses of loved ones, and the loss of social activities, as well as the loss of norm. When we've taken all that away, again, we are left to self-reflect, and self-reflection is something that is very difficult for many of us. I know that it is for me. Whoever told you that the path to self-discovery, that getting to know who you are is fun, is full of shit. It is not fun. Yes, it has its moments when you gain more insight about yourself, your patterns, the stories you've told yourself, the narratives that you carry and live by. In the process of gaining that insight, it's not so fun. But again, as you continue experiencing it and as you continue opening yourself up to the actual self-discovery experience, you become more aware of what is going on, right? You may not resist it as much or fight it as much. You tend to be more open to it. So back to the loss of identity. See, I can go on 20,000 different tangents. When someone you were connected with passes away and you had a relationship with this person, oftentimes we are left feeling empty or as though something is missing. So you feel like you have a void, right? So much of who we are, we tend to project on our relationships with others and the purpose we serve in their lives and vice versa, right? What was your role in that person's life? Were you heavily connected? Did you see them as a support system? Were you perhaps a caregiver? Because when we involve disease or anything else that requires someone to assist another person, we tend to, again, go hard and say, okay, we have to do this. This is my purpose right now, to be able to help this person. And when you take that person away, then you're still kind of left with that need and desire to help, but you don't have anywhere to project that energy to, right? When people die, we tend to think, what is the purpose? What do we do now? This was a question that I asked myself for a very long time. It wasn't until perhaps 2 years ago that I started to find purpose after the loss of my mother, right? Because initially, as I've mentioned before, my mother had many health conditions, which led me to take on the responsibility of, I have to take care of mom. I have to make sure that mom is good. When we invest so much of our energy, of our being into making sure that that person is okay and taken care of, it becomes quite difficult to focus on you. So when that person is no longer here, then guess what? You're forced to focus on you, and it is painful. As I said, it is painful. It was painful for me because I was left feeling like I had no purpose. What was I supposed to do with this life? And let me tell you, at that point, life felt really long. I used to say to people when they would tell me, listen, life is short, just try to make the best of it. I would say, no, life is actually pretty long. It feels pretty damn long, just because, again, when you're left feeling like you have no hope in the present, in the future, you tend to feel like you're almost wandering the earth aimlessly with no purpose. We are our own individuals, and it's not until we accept that life is not going to look like the way it did when that loved one was here. And that's a hard realization. I was looking for life to feel and look like how it did before my mom passed away. And unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to find that life again. So it almost put me at ease and kind of gave me a sense of relief, just because I was given permission to almost not move on. Because again, moving on, do we ever move on? We learn to live and cope, but I don't know. Moving on is still kind of like a a very interesting topic for me. I felt like I was given permission to, okay, focus on something else, right? So stop looking for what is not going to be found. Start looking for something else. When you have this loss of identity, you are left feeling isolated, and that you will not be able to survive the loss, that you will not be able to ever find meaning again, that you will not be able to experience joy, that you will not be able to do so many things that you had planned to do with this person, right? And I am here to tell you, 9 years later, I'm still surviving. I know it can get intense and I know it can get difficult, but there is life after loss, hence the name, life after loss. Yes, you're following, you see? Anyways, but yes, there is definitely life after loss. It's just a matter of being able to embark on that journey of saying, you know what? This person passed away. I no longer have this person physically. There are ways that we can remain connected to our loved ones even after losing them. So make sure you check out the previous videos on that to learn a little bit more. And as David Kessler himself actually came up with a 6th stage, which is finding meaning, finding purpose. It's not finding meaning in the death. There's truly no reason or rhyme as to why people have to die, why the people we love the most have to leave us, right? It's about finding meaning for yourself, finding meaning for your life. What new purpose can you now have? What can you learn from this about yourself and who you thought you were before this person passed away, right? Because before my mom passed away, I thought I was simply her caregiver. It's funny because the word caregiver, I didn't learn it until a few years back that I started working with people with dementia. But prior to that, I didn't see myself as a caregiver. I saw myself as her daughter who took care of her. That was it. So it took me a long time to understand that I was much more than just her daughter or the person that took care of her, that I was Lindsay first before I was all of the other things, right? Rebuilding, as I mentioned, can be hard. Discovering who you are and finding your identity can be hard, but let me tell you, it's a journey worthwhile. It's a journey that will truly push you beyond your limits, and it's only beyond the limits that we truly get tested and get the best growth, get the best, development as far as ourselves. And it's a lifelong journey. Don't think that, oh, I'm gonna go on the path to self-discovery and then be off it by next week. No, it doesn't work like that. You never stop learning things about yourself. Take yourself out. What is it that you like genuinely like? Because sometimes I feel like we get pushed into situations and we're told, or we see that everyone else is enjoying it or feeling happy, and we feel like, okay, if they're happy, then I should be happy too. No. What is it that you like? What makes you happy? What makes you tick? What makes you passionate? What wakes you up? And it's okay if you don't have those answers right now, because I know there's times I'm still wondering, like, what the hell am I doing awake? Like, what is going to keep me pushing, like, day in and day out? Being able to learn about yourself and kind of the things that perhaps you didn't have time or the energy to focus on, and also the things that you perhaps may want to explore deeper. Like, is this truly my belief system? Is this how I view myself? Or is this simply a projection of how other people have viewed me? The loss of identity can be challenging to cope with, but it's something that you can regain. It's something that you can actually go much deeper and learn about who you are if you take on the task, and it's not an easy one. People sometimes resort to professionals such as life coaches, mentors, mental health professionals, different instructors, right, that kind of deal with finding purpose, or what is your purpose in life. And it truly stems from just finding what is it that you're passionate about. And you may not know that right now, and nothing may make you passionate about, because perhaps you haven't stumbled upon that thing that really drives you, and that's okay. I hope you guys have found this helpful. Make sure, if you haven't already done so, this is your first time visiting me, to visit my introduction video over at my homepage, Grief Life After Loss. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to turn on those notifications, and also follow me on Instagram at lifeafterloss0322. For any questions, inquiries, or comments, feel free to send me an email at lifeafterloss0322@gmail.com. Until the next, thank you.